keep trying. Good morning and welcome to Kunsang Pile Juling. So glad to have you here and hope that this doesn't shut down immediately like it's been doing. I'm really apologizing for the technical difficulties and have no idea what's going on. So before it shuts down again, let's just go on to this teaching by Jetsunma Ahkon Lhamo today. The title is Believe in Your Own Buddha Nature, and this was taught in 1990. So enjoy.
In the Buddhist teaching, there is one unique philosophy, and that philosophy is this. According to the Buddha, the Dharmakaya nature, or the essence of enlightenment, is all-pervasive. That essence of enlightenment is considered to be the union of luminosity and wisdom, or the knowledge of emptiness, freedom from conceptualization. That nature, as I previously stated, is all-pervasive. Due to the quality of that nature, due to the quality of that nature being unified luminosity and wisdom, that nature is referred to as suchness, because there is no other way to refer to it. In the sense that once one names the nature, once one describes the nature, then one has lost the nature. Once that description takes place, then limitation takes place. Conceptualization takes place, and that is not the nature. This nature then is called suchness, and according to the Buddha's teaching, this nature cannot be divided. It is all-pervasive because it cannot be divided. In essence, there is nowhere that nature is not. In that this nature is indivisible, in that this nature is all-pervasive, all phenomenal reality, as well as all sentient beings, have as their essence that nature. Again, that nature is the Buddha nature, also called the Dharmakaya, also called suchness. And according to that train of thought, all sentient beings have within them the essential Buddha nature. On that basis, we come to understand that each sentient being has the power to achieve enlightenment, that is to say, has the power to become a Buddha. Not Buddha-like in imitation of the Buddha, but a Buddha. The important thought here is to understand this. When it is said that all sentient beings have within them the innate capacity to become enlightened or to become the Buddha, the basis for the statement is that inherent within each sentient being is the Buddha nature. That it is inherently so, and must be so, since there is no way to divide the nature. Therefore, there can be no between when and where it is not. Based on that, all sentient beings can be Buddha, can awaken to that nature, essentially. Can awake to that nature in the same way that the Buddha himself as being awake rather than being godlike. He described himself as being awake. In other religions and other philosophies, there is a difference in that the thought is that one actually accumulates movement in a certain direction in order to be united. Godhead or godlike force is actually, or in other religions, one has the idea that one can contrive or collect or compose enlightenment. Some Eastern religions feel that way, that one can actually grow in such a way as to become the same as enlightened essence, or that one can collect or gather together enlightened essence. This is not the Buddha's teaching. The Buddha teaches that if we had to rely on our own capacity to create enlightenment, or to collect enlightenment, or to become as good as enlightenment, or to move toward some godlike figure, or some enlightened source, then we would most assuredly fail in that we, in our present state of delusion, would not have the capacity to create or collect a state of enlightenment. That the basis for our success depends on the inherent Buddha nature that is our nature. The mistake that practitioners make, however, is that they try to understand their relationship with enlightenment and with spiritual success by how advanced they personally are, and they lose it. They lose understanding. They try to determine their success. They try to describe their success. They try to understand their success in such a way as to measure it. And like measuring cups of water to be put into a recipe, or cups of flour to be put into a recipe, in that way try to determine their proximity to enlightenment. In terms of one's practice, this leads to the deepest kind of mistake or delusion. And that relying on our own personal competency as the reason for, and the means by which we will attain enlightenment, we cannot attain enlightenment. Or understanding that our capacity to, in some way that we don't understand, be spiritual, or be good, or be godlike, or be like an enlightened person, that our capacity to somehow contrive that, or imitate that, or pretend that that will somehow make it happen. Falling into that delusion, we cannot practice effectively, because our faith is misplaced. It is actually then placed in the realm of very ordinary activity. The ability to make up a path, or to pretend you're on a path, or to act as though you were realizing something on that path. That kind of pretension, that kind of activity, is simply ordinary activity. It isn't so different from baking a cake. It isn't so different from catching a train. It's the same. But to rely on the all-pervasiveness and the lack of limitation of the inherent Buddha nature as the reason by which, the cause by which we achieve enlightenment, this ensures our success. Essentially, Lord Buddha, in his essence, is not different from us. He has the same potential to achieve enlightenment. The difference is that he realized that potential. But we have the same innate potency as Lord Buddha or as any of the enlightened ones. The same potency, not different. The Buddha, however, practiced for a very long time doing meditation and accomplishing virtuous activity until the time that he awakened to his innate nature by conquering and dispelling all hatred, greed, and ignorance. And this is what we must do, the very same thing that the Buddha has done. Conquer hatred, conquer greed, and conquer ignorance. Our capacity for success is the same as the Buddha's. How is it so? Once again, the Buddha nature is all-pervasive and it cannot be divided. Therefore, that inherent Buddha essence that is the Buddha's nature is indivisible from our own nature. When we look at the enlightened Buddha, we look at our own nature revealed. When we look at any enlightened one, when we look at our own root gurus, we look at our own nature revealed. In a sense, we look at our own face when we see the Buddha. Now the Buddha teaches us that in order to achieve that potential, in order to realize that potential, one must conquer the delusions that occur within the mind due to the belief in self-nature as being inherently real. And one must conquer the products of that delusion, all hatred, greed, and ignorance. These are the things that we must also engage in. And here again is where the practitioner falls short. The practitioner will think, I have too much anger in my mind. I really can't conquer hatred. Or the practitioner will think, I have too many things to do. I simply don't have the time to work on spiritual matters. I have to support my family or I have to take care of my children, and therefore I can't work on these spiritual matters. Or the practitioner will think, the Buddha is different. The Buddha is the Buddha. The Buddha is very smart. Somehow his wisdom is great and mine is very small, and therefore I will never be like the Buddha. But that's not what the Buddha taught you. That's not what we know about the enlightened essence that is your nature. Whose voice is it then that says these words? Where is the doubt? The doubt must be recognized as our own delusion. That's the voice that we are hearing, our own confusion and our own delusion. And so we have to look at that from a distance and understand what that is. The teachings are very clear. We are the same as the Buddha in potential. There is a method, there is a clear-cut and very defined path. And the result, of course, is the awakening to what is true and what is already present and inherent, our own Buddha nature. We must also come to believe in not only our inherent potential as the Buddha, but also we must come to believe in our ability to create the kinds of virtuous activity that will bring us closer to enlightenment, that will bring us closer to that awakening. And each one of us has, like a precious jewel in the palm of our hands, that potential. There is nothing that is required of us in order to achieve awakening, in order to achieve realization, that we cannot do. In order to achieve realization, we must engage in meditation. We must engage in contemplation. We must engage in study. We must engage in offering, to make offerings, physical offerings as well as offerings of our body, speech, and mind. We must engage in generosity. We must engage in compassionate activity. And eventually, when we are prepared, we must engage in teaching. That is to say, to make available to others an authentic and pure path once we ourselves have accomplished it, and not before. Please. All of these things are within the realm of possibility. Any one of us can choose to do these things. But we hold ourselves back, and the way that we hold ourselves back is by saying, I simply don't have the qualities. I don't have the capacity. I don't have the time. I don't have the intelligence. I wasn't born like that. Try to distinguish that doubt within your mind from what the Buddha has taught. The Buddha has taught clearly, without reservation, the Dharmakaya nature, or the essential Buddha nature, is all pervasive. It exists equally in every sentient being. That nature has certain qualities. It cannot be constructed. Suchness cannot be constructed. What would you construct it of? With what building blocks? Suchness is understood to be the union of luminosity and wisdom. How would one make that up? The nature is true, the nature is complete, the nature is unconstructed, and it is present everywhere. That being the nature, the qualities of the nature, then it is also unlimited. The Buddha nature is as well indestructible. And here's another place where sentient beings get messed up. Practitioners get messed up. We have a great deal of guilt. We know what we are. We think about all the things that we've done that we haven't done well. And we think about some of the things that we've done especially badly. And we know what thoughts we have in our heads. We know a lot about ourselves, actually, and we're not always willing to talk about it, but we know a great deal about ourselves. And we somehow carry around this hidden, internal, kind of subconscious idea that we have destroyed something, that we are flawed somehow, that somehow we have defiled our nature, that somehow we have become, due to our activities, less worthy than the enlightened ones. But this is the voice of your own doubt. This is not the Buddha's teaching. The Buddha teaches us only one thing, that all of us have the same and equal inherent potential for enlightenment, and that the Buddha nature cannot be destroyed. One cannot tarnish emptiness. How would one do that? One can tarnish jewelry. You can wreck a car. We can break down our house. We can boil our supper and ruin it. But these are pieces of phenomena. These are things that can be held in the hand. The Buddha nature is emptiness and luminosity. It is uncontrived and unlimited. It is unborn and perfectly complete, and every moment spontaneously arising. How can it be destroyed? With what tool could we destroy that nature? It is impossible. Quite frankly, if we have committed a great deal of unfortunate acts, both inner and outer, then we do have some problems. There's no doubt about that. But the problem is more a problem of habitual tendency and cause and effect relationship. We have the habit of selfishness. Therefore, it is our right and our responsibility and our potential to practice generosity. We have the habit of anger. We get angry about everything. We have that habit in our mind. Therefore, we should practice the antidote of kindness, of understanding, of loving care. These are the things that we should practice as an antidote. Absolutely, we have the habit of selfishness or the habit of hatred, and even as we try to practice the antidote, what's going to happen? We will revert to our own habits, revert to our old ways. But the thing to do is to continue trying. Upon entering the path of the Bodhisattva, one should immediately begin to practice generosity every moment. How many, entering the path of the Bodhisattva, immediately begin to practice generosity every moment? Do you know how many? 0. None. The reason why is because we don't know how, but we're learning. And we have the innate ability to practice and to live generosity, and as well we have the innate ability to create the intention of generosity and to learn how. If in the first commitment period, when we first decide to practice the way of the Bodhisattva, to practice generosity, if in that first moment we practice kindness or generosity as an antidote to our own hatred, greed, and ignorance for half a second, purely, then that's a start. And we can graduate to a whole second. Pretty soon we can go to 5 seconds. Before you know it, we've got half a minute down. And after about 10 years of work, we might be able to pull off 5 whole minutes of generosity. Because it's like that. When you practice pure generosity, generosity that doesn't come from your need to practice generosity, generosity that is genuine and free of all self-absorption, frankly, it takes that long. But each one of us has that nature as our innate nature. And what we are doing is merely clearing away the debris, causing us therefore to awaken to or to view that nature purely and clearly. But we should never for a moment lose faith, because the faith should never be in our ability to be kind. How many times have we tried to do the right thing, to live a good life, to be spiritual, however you want to phrase it, and haven't been able to manage any time at all in that state, and have been sorely disappointed in ourselves, and eventually just kind of gave it up and went on about our lives? That should never happen if we understand where the faith should be placed. Shouldn't be placed in our being generous at this present moment. We know that that's not the case. It should be placed, that faith should be placed in our innate ability, through cause and effect relationships, to uncover our own true nature, which is in essence pure generosity. The Dharmakaya is present everywhere. In our hearts, in our minds, in our fingertips, in our words, in our intentions. As we reinforce the habits of kindness and goodness and practice all virtuous accumulations, gradually, over a period of time, that will be present as well in our method and in our habits. And gradually, over a period of time, we will realize that Dharmakaya nature in our ordinary phenomenal existence as well. According to the Buddha's teaching, at that point we will not only display the Dharmakaya nature, but we will also display the Sambhogakaya nature and the Nirmanakaya nature. The Dharmakaya nature is the all-pervasive foundational view, the uncontrived primordial essence that is the Buddha nature. The Sambhogakaya nature is that nature appearing in an emanation or display phase. The Sambhogakaya body is called the complete enjoyment body. It is called the bliss body. When we realize that nature so completely that here in our form, as a physical being, we are able to show, to some degree, that nature in operation, to display goodness and kindness and enlightened essence in the form body, then it is said that we have attained the Nirmanakaya body, which is to say the enlightened essence in form. But it isn't three different bodies. It isn't something that we have to make up like a child makes up castles out of building blocks. It is merely the appearance of our own true nature in our understanding, in our ways, in our means, and finally, in our form and in our lives. It doesn't arise from somewhere else. No one grants you the blessing to be the Buddha. No one has that power. Rather than that, we realize what is essentially true and always has been. That nature, which is pure nature and undefiled, uncontrived, and indestructible, constantly arising and spontaneously complete, is our true nature and always has been. The activity that we constantly revolve in, that maintains our confusion and our doubt, as I described our doubt, when we think it impossible to achieve any kind of realization, that is merely the product of our own mistaken beliefs. It is only the voice of confusion and has no basis in truth. So we should have faith that is as solid as a rock. And that faith should be based not on what we've seen with our eyes. Because what have we seen with our eyes is we've seen us mess up our lives. We've seen some pretty bad things. But again, that is only evidence of our confusion. The basis for our faith is our inherent nature, and that the Buddha has told us and promised us that we are the same as him and all the Buddhas that have preceded him and all that will come after. We are the same. That nature is sameness, suchness, immovable, and ever present. Therefore, it is present within each of us equally. By the way, that's also the basis through which we come to understand loving sentient beings. Every religion has some kind of teaching that sounds like love thy neighbor as thyself, to borrow a phrase. And the Buddhists are no different. We actually feel that all sentient beings are equal. That in fact we should love all of our neighbors more than we love ourselves. And the reason why is that there's just more of them. If we're all the same and there's more of them than there is of me, it makes more sense to go for their happiness than it does for mine. And so we take vows about things like that. We try very hard to support the happiness of all sentient beings. This is the basis for our faith, understanding that they are the same as us, inseparable, but that they have the same confusion, and that like us, they are trying to be happy. That's all, just trying to be happy, and making lots of mistakes at it, just like us. So the basis for our practice of loving kindness and compassion is again the teaching that I have spoken of this morning, that the Buddha nature is all-pervasive and the same, and the only real truth. How simple. How simple that is compared to the confusion that we exist in every single moment. Isn't that true? When we make up stories in our heads and get crazy and get confused and think badly of ourselves, Some sentient beings, some human beings, even try to commit suicide. They get so sad. And they're sad about their own confusion, and that's all. The Buddha came almost 3,000 years ago and gave us this truth, told us of our sameness, of our inherent value and purity, and of our nature, and of its all-pervasiveness and indivisibility. This simple truth was given to us like a light, and then the Buddha left and said, now work out your happiness. Work out your own salvation. The teaching there is that we have the capacity to work it out. Through cause and effect relationships, we can bring about the view of our own nature. Through meditation, through study, through contemplation, through offering, through generosity, through these and other means, each one of us has the capacity to awaken to our own Buddha. No one can take it from us, not even the Buddha. So hear this in such a way as to empower you. The difference between Buddhism, perhaps, and many other religions is the empowerment of it. Basically, what the Buddha tells us is that the ball is in our court. Right now, the ball is in your court. You have that inherent nature. That no one can take that away from you. That is your nature. And you can create the causes by which you come to know it. Slowly at first, but surely, not because you're good at it, but because it is your nature. Knowing that, you cannot be prevented from Buddhahood. Knowing that, we can develop faith.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for your patience. That was amazing that you stayed on that long, and what a wonderful teaching um, for you to wait for. So I appreciate it, and I was glad to do the same. So I have no idea what that was all about on my computer, but there we are. Let's move on. We also show these teachings of Jetsunma. These are pre-recorded on Wednesdays at 7:30, in addition to our Sundays at 11. Both of these are on YouTube. Meditation classes we have with a couple of our Anis, and that's on Saturdays and Sundays at 10 a.m. again on YouTube. This weekend has been replays of previous meditation classes that they've given because they've both been tied up. So you'll get live people next week. So Medicine Buddha, we offer on Facebook live every evening at 7 p.m. And it's just a beautiful short practice, about 15 minutes, maybe a little longer. Depends on how many people are making prayer requests and offerings, and just trying to get some comfort here in these times. And join them, please, because you can use their comfort and they can use yours. It's a good thing. That and let's see, we've got Sok, food offering ceremonies, or a feast offering, depending, on what who taught you the words, I guess. Anyway, we have those daily on Zoom. Monday through Friday at 5:30, Saturday at noon, and Sundays today at 2. You can get to that Zoom offering on tara.org, our website, which is listed there in the chat. And in fact, the direct link to find the calendar is on there, tara.org, Maryland Events Calendar. So you can just click on that. And once you get used to finding it, you'll find it real fast. And then you just click on the event, and it will give you the links to get into the event and links for the practice that we're doing, so you can join us and feel fully a part of it. We're happy to have you join with us. The more the merrier, we say. So that will be later on today. We're just always so happy to have you with us. And should you want to make an offering to Jetsunma, please, you can do so directly to her on her PayPal address, which is jetsumagift@gmail.com. And I believe that is in the chat. It should be. If you have any questions ever, you can email us at kpc@tara.org. And now for the exciting part. We're always open outside, dawn to dusk every day, holidays, everything. And we invite you to come with us and join us outside. We are reopening the temple as of the weekend of the 18th, which is not this coming weekend, but the following one. So you'll be able to come inside the prayer room and join, and do some prayers and meditation there. We do ask that you mask N95 and 94, so that you're safe and everyone's safe. And it will be on Saturdays and Sundays, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And you'll see it on the calendar, and it's also on the website. So starting that weekend, which, is coming into the Losar period. So during the Losar New Year, the Tibetan New Year period, it'll be open, and we're really excited about that. So please come and visit and see us, see outside, see inside. So much to see and do, and all of it, are great places to make offerings in your heart, to make prayers, and to have them answered. That is our wish for everyone. So with all of that going on, we do welcome you, and we hope to see you. So our next teaching of Jetsumas will be on Wednesday at 7:30. Join us then. Thanks, and be safe.